I know you've also done research on daycare systems. So maybe could you explain a little bit about the research and the findings that you've encountered?
Well, what we do know, outside of Quebec, obviously, because Quebec does have a fairly unique system that has made childcare much more accessible and much more affordable to a much greater swath of the population, and has reaped the rewards of that, I should add. Again, the return on investment in childcare has been profound and indicates that the system more than pays for itself, which is important to remember. But across the rest of the country, it is much more patchwork, much more expensive, and much less predictable. It's a market-based system. And as a result, you have people paying upwards of $800 to $1,000 a month for a spot. And currently, we have 500,000 kids in Canada with 2 working parents and no daycare spot at all available. What governments, and of course, childcare is universal childcare, national childcare system that's been promised for decades, and it still has yet to materialize, even though governments have promised again and again and again. What we recently have had implemented is something called the universal childcare benefit, which has just been enhanced, and a number of other sort of boutique tax credit programs, like child activities and clubs. You can get some sort of a tax credit back, but you also have to spend the maximum in order to get a very minimal tax credit back in return. So it actually, you're not that much further ahead, and it also suggests that you have to make a lot of money to be able to spend a lot of money to be able to recoup a little bit of money. There's also the new family income tax package, otherwise known as income splitting, which only a very specific type of family can benefit from, and it certainly does not provide those benefits equitably. So these programs, first of all, are not a childcare program. The UCCB does not create a single childcare spot. It is not an effective or an efficient way of ensuring that people who need money get the money, because of course everybody gets the money from birth right up to 17 years old. So it could be helping to pay for a 17-year-old's driving lessons, but it's certainly not helping to pay for their childcare. One of my colleagues did some interesting calculations which indicated that when you take the enhanced UCCB and what that costs to the public purse and combine it with income splitting and what that costs to the public purse, what it suggests is that all of Canada is in fact paying for what it would cost to have $7 a day childcare. It's just that Quebec is the only province that's getting it, because these things don't create childcare. UCCBs, tax credits, these kind of handouts, they don't create childcare. It's policy that creates childcare. And until we actually have policy that addresses this issue and the tremendous need that's required to support the families and what families look like today, single parent families, double, 2 working parent families, we're not going to get the program that we need. And that will actually improve us all as a society, because it will allow families to achieve their potential, and it's something that's been proven to be really good for kids.
So how would we go about then making an ideal funding system for daycares?
Well, it does require a fairly significant public investment up front, absolutely, but we're also looking at creating a new workforce, hopefully with decent wages, which again is good for communities. Childcare is much as schools are community hubs. They're things that actually enrich a community. They bring people together. They do provide an opportunity to invest economically in a community as well. They create a stable, not precarious workforce. They can feed effectively into a school system, for example. So there's sort of a much greater synergy between these two systems that don't need to be separate. And ultimately, as we've seen in Quebec, these programs pay for themselves financially, but also, the social return on this investment is tremendous. So, we can certainly look at where money is being spent through income splitting in the UCCB, and we can take that and we could actually put it towards a well-funded system and get those spots on the ground out to families who need them, so people can actually, take advantage of a system that we're in desperate need of. But we can also rejoice in the fact that this is good for us. It's good for us economically, it's good for us socially, and frankly, we can't afford not to do it. We're at that much of a crisis point now that we cannot afford not to address it with policy, with good policy, not with handouts, and certainly not with boutique tax credits.